What's up, TKO Nation? Welcome back to the TKO Podcast. Make sure you tune in.
Alrighty, folks. Here we are, back at it again. Technical Knockout, the MMA podcast. I'm your host, as always, Hussein, the one and only. Many will try. Few will succeed. I don't know. I'm just talking shit. Welcome back, y'all. Thank you for your patience. First off, I know I'm a little late on putting this out. As you can hear in my voice, I've been dealing with some strep throat, which really sucks. But nonetheless, I wanted to get this episode out for this lackluster UFC Apex event. The addiction is real, you know? So, first off, UFC 315 recap. Bilal Muhammad dropped the title to Jack Della Maddalena last week. It was surprising, in my opinion. I thought Bilal was going to win for sure. As I said in the preview episode, I expected him to use the wrestling a lot earlier and more often. By the time he did start getting it going, Maddalena, first off, had a great performance. Della Maddalena. I'm a huge fan of him. I've been a fan of him since I started the podcast, but to see him put all the pieces together over 5 rounds like that, over a tough champion like Bilal, really inspiring performance. So I'm happy for the guy. I'm proud of him. And so new champion at 170. I think if Bilal went to the wrestling a little bit earlier, he might have had a little bit more of a chance in this fight. But he looked good. It was a good fight. It was a fun fight, really fun fight. Mignon Fierro came up short in the co-main event, which really sucked. I thought she was going to be able to get it done against Valentina, but Valentina proved a step ahead. Close fight, fun fight, competitive fight, but Valentina definitely won. And then Jose Aldo, I felt, was robbed against Ayman Zahabi. I thought Aldo won the first 2 rounds, but he almost got that finish in the third, and then Zahabi rallied back, and Aldo was just exhausted after that. It was funny because it kind of reminded me a lot of Aldo's fight in Toronto years ago, or in Montreal years ago, rather, against Mark Hominick. Fight where he won pretty much every round, and then the third round in the 5th round in that fight was exhausted, and Mark Hominick ended up on top, just beating him up for the last 5 minutes, and that's pretty much what happened here against Zahabi. But the judges gave it to Zahabi. For it to happen in 3 rounds is a little more damning than it was in 5. Aldo's obviously over it now. He retired in the cage post-fight. Legendary career. I think it's time to redo my retrospective on Aldo. Storied career, amazing fighter, underrated in my opinion. But nonetheless, an awesome fight card. The rest of the card we got right. We went 4-3. The only ones we got wrong were the top 3 fights, which 2 of them were 48-47s, and the other one was a robbery decision in my opinion. So I don't feel terrible about going 4-3. It did feel like I was ready for that first sweep though, man. When I was 4-0 there, I was riding high. Right after the Aldo fight, I felt like it was close, but he did enough to win, and I was going to be 5-0. Well, nonetheless, it is what it is. But so moving forward, we're going to get Islam versus JDM and Ilya versus Charles Oliveira, which I think are great fights. I'm excited to break those down when the time comes. But right now, we're going to be talking about Gilbert Burns versus Michael Morales at UFC Apex this weekend. There's a couple of fun fights on here, a couple of good betting opportunities, I think. Start with the main event, Burns versus Morales. This is a fight that is a trap. First and foremost, it's a trap. I just turned up the gain on my mic a little bit because I think I'm coming in very quiet here. I think, Burns, an old man, got finished by JDM in his last time out, but obviously now that guy's the champion, so really can't hold that against him too much. He also lost to Sean Brady. Again, a top contender. The strength of schedule for Burns has been impressive. And now he takes a step down here in rising contender Michael Morales. Morales, for all intents and purposes, is a bit of a spaz out. in my opinion. I think he has clean technique, but he chooses the wrong spots. It's just things that come with more experience, though. It's nothing to slight him. It's just a matter of, how many fights he has in the banner and at this level. So yeah, I mean, he finished Neil Magny by just kind of punching Neil Magny in the face after a while of losing. And I forget who he fought in his last fight. I think he fought Jake Matthews not long ago, which was relatively impressive. Yeah, Neil Magny he knocked out. Jake Matthews he did look pretty good there, and against Max Griffin as well. But again, those performances were against guys who he should have smoked, and he kind of had competitive fights with. Neil Magny a bit over the hill, but so is Gilbert Burns. And if you're going to take a pick based on athleticism, on youth, that kind of thing, this is the kind of pick that you have to read and be like, yeah, this is 100% for me. Morales, big favorite here. I think it's a little crazy. But I also struggle to see a path to victory for Burns in this fight. I suppose he can go to the wrestling over and over. We might be looking at like a Hani Barcelos, Peyton Talbot type situation here. But I think more often than not, Morales is studied enough to be able to keep Burns away and use that jab, keep him at the length, and eventually find a finish, if not win a decision. I think the Morales decision is a very live prop here. Burns, even though he's been stopped before, is not as fragile as I think some people think. And Morales was able to knock out Neil Magny, but as we just said, went to decision with guys like Max Griffin, who's very fragile, and Jake Matthews, who's not very fragile, but is, not an elite fighter. I love Matthews, but, that's just the matter of fact. He's not a top 10 guy. Burns, I think, should be able to withstand the punishment from Morales, or at least make it an interesting enough fight that he can see the scorecards here. So if you like the Morales side, I think betting him over is a smart bet. If you really feel like the experience is not going to add up to anything and Morales is just going to smoke him, KO under 3 is probably a better bet. It's not going to happen by submission, I'll tell you that much. But, yeah, main event is honestly the least interesting fight on this fight card. Not that there's some that are super interesting, but there's a couple other spots that I think prop-wise are going to be fun to watch. And we'll start that with the co-main event, Paul Craig and Adolfo Bellato. Adolfo Bellato, what can you say about this guy? He's big as fuck. He hits pretty hard, and he throws straight punches from his shoulders. I think he's going to knock out Paul Craig. I think he's a good enough grappler to stop the wrestling of Paul Craig, and he's an aggressive enough striker to put Paul Craig on skates. And I think he'll find that finish in the first or second round here. So give me Bellato by knockout, first or second round, and I'm going to take that with pretty high confidence. Bellato's a minus 500 or so getting him first or second round knockout should be closer to plus 150 or minus 150 if anything. So I like those odds better than minus 500. So give me that. Bellato first or second round KO. Next, you got Sadiq Youssef versus Myron Santos. I'm pretty excited for this fight, honestly. Myron Santos, I've spoke high praises about this guy before. He won the Ultimate Fighter recently, and more recently than that, won a decision that a lot of people thought he should have lost against Francis Fire Marshall. Francis Marshall, a very talented prospect in his own right. Myron Santos, a bit of a cleaner technique kind of guy. Likes to stay on the outside. Reminds me a lot of Anderson Silva, honestly. I mean, obviously doesn't have that pedigree of striking, but has a very similar style. And that he likes to stay on the outside, throw that front kick, keep people guessing with feints and stuff like that, and then crash in the pocket with big 2s and big 3s and things like that. So I think this is an interesting matchup because Sadiq Youssef was everybody's favorite prospect up until recently when he started running into brick walls, the hands of, I think it was Dan Ige at first, or was it Arnold Allen? Arnold Allen beat him, and then he also lost to Edson Barboza, and most recently got knocked out by Sadiq Youssef. I mean, by Diego Lopez. Diego Lopez obviously just fought for the title, so no shame really in losing to him. The way that he lost sucked because he just kind of got blown out of the water really early. But I still rate Sadiq Youssef pretty highly, and he's very dangerous in that first round, as Edson Barboza found out. I do think that he had a lot to learn from those two fights, and I think he did learn. I'd assume that he learned. It's been a year since he got knocked out by Lopez, so I'm not terribly worried about the durability factor in that sense, as far as him coming off of the knockout loss. Myron Santos is nowhere near the level of chaotic energy that Diego Lopez is. Myron, as I said, likes to play it kind of clean. He will go for the knockout if it presents itself or if he finds a good read, but I don't think he's like a one-shot power puncher. I think it's more like similar to Silva, honestly, similar to Anderson, where it's more about the precision and timing and accuracy of his strikes, and volume approach, if you will. So that being said, I think Sadiq Yusuff is good enough to at least check Myron Santos in this fight. Sadiq has good wrestling. Santos had struggled with the wrestling of Francis Marshall in the last fight. And Sadiq is a decent striker too. He's always been a good striker. We almost knocked out Edson Barboza in that fight that, he gassed himself out and got whooped after. But that was an awesome comeback from Barboza, by the way. If you guys haven't seen that fight, I highly recommend it. One of those old dog that still has it type performances. So yeah, I just feel like this is a little bit too much too soon for Santos. I like Santos a lot, as I mentioned, but this kind of feels like the type of fight where it's going to be like a y'all must have forgot kind of thing. Santos, coming in off of that victory over Marshall that a lot of people thought he lost, is getting a big step up in competition here against Sadiq Yusuff. And, historically these things don't play out great for the up-and-comer. This is going to be a chance at the top 15, I believe. Sadiq Yusuff is ranked. If he's not, it doesn't make any sense, but I believe he is. So I believe this is going to be a good test for Santos, and I think it's worth taking a stab at Yusuff at underdog odds here. So I don't know if I'll put Yusuff in my round robin in my betting slip, but I think it might be worth a stab at underdog odds. I do like Santos a lot, but if Santos gets this done here, I expect it to be by decision. Next, you got Dustin Stoltzfus versus Nusratin Ruzabayev. This is another trap fight because this can go two ways. Stoltzfus is a very talented wrestler. Ruzabayev had a lot of trouble with the wrestling of Joaquin Buckley. Ruzabayev is a big hitter, though, and Stoltzfus has shown some durability issues in the past. If Stoltzfus can withstand the first round, I think his odds go up tremendously in this fight. So if Ruzabayev can hurt Stoltzfus a lot early and Stoltzfus somehow survives it, I think the live odds on Stoltzfus are going to be very juicy, and it's worth a stab at live odds after the first round here. Otherwise, Stoltzfus can get this done, but I think more often than not, Ruzabayev will find that knockout in the first round. I like Stoltzfus. He's improved a lot. But, Ruzabayev brings the kind of chaotic energy that Stoltzfus has kind of shied away from in the past. And, I think that's really what it comes down to, This is like a first round or bust kind of fight for Ruzabayev. And, it might be worth taking a look at live odds-wise. But other than that, I think it might be a safer bet to put Ruzabayev first round knockout. But, this could be one that has definitely upset potential. Next, you got Julian Erosa versus Melquizael Costa. Now, Melquizael Costa is coming off of, my opinion, his career best performance against Christian Rodriguez, a fight where I picked Christian Rodriguez comfortably to beat him. Julian Erosa is coming off of one of his career best performances against Darren Elkins, where he knocked out the damage in a round, a fight that I picked with supreme confidence, and it paid out that way. Melky, again, I feel coming off of that career best performance and really coming into his own now as a fighter here at featherweight, I'm sorry. Julian Erosa, we've seen his ceiling before, and he is an action fighter, kill or be killed. I believe that Melquizael Costa is a better fighter than him in pretty much every respect. I think Melky has better grappling than Erosa, but Erosa is one of those guys who are really tricky everywhere. If he's not, technical by the book everywhere, that's okay, because he has a few tricks that a lot of people can't get past, namely his guillotine, his head kicks, those kind of things that he can sneak people with. And I believe Melquizael should be stable enough or durable enough to withstand some of those, extraneous elements from Erosa. And he should be able to get this done here. I like Melquizael in this fight. At anything less than minus 200, I think is a very good line. Up to that point, I think you should probably start taking a step away from it, because this is the kind of fight that Rose is the type of fighter who can either kill somebody in the first round, get killed himself in the first round, or out of nowhere pull a blood and guts war for 3 rounds. So you really don't know what you're going to get with him. And Melquizel is somebody who's been steadily improving, and I think he should have improved enough at this point to be able to get past a veteran test like a Rosa. So I like Melquizel in the money line spot here. As long as it's minus 200 or lower, I think it's a very good bet. Gabriel Green versus Mateus Camillo. Mateus Camillo beat the guy Nabatov, I think his name was. He, at a press conference, asked Dana White for a shot. He's an Uzbeki guy. He was like 8-0, something like that. So Dana White gave him a shot on looking for a fight. He fought this guy Mateus, and Mateus stole the show. He beat him up. Now he's getting a shot in the UFC, Mateus, and he's fighting Gabriel Green, a guy who I've been pretty hot and cold on, honestly. I liked him a lot when he first saw him because he was a southpaw who had a really good chin and hit pretty hard. I picked him to beat Ian Gary. That did not pay out well because Ian Gary just kind of kept him on the range, and we've seen how Gary has progressed since that fight. It's been leaps and bounds, so no shame in losing to a guy like that. However, in his last fight, Gabriel Green came out really recklessly against a killer in Brian Battle and got chinned in like 19 seconds. He relied on his durability and his chin, and that's just not a good idea. I mean, even against Brian Battle, who, he is a killer for sure. I love Brian Battle. I'm a huge Brian Battle fan. But, he's not somebody who's known for a first punch, knock you out kind of thing. He's more of a break you down and kill your will to win. He's somebody who drowns you, not somebody who flash knocks out you in the first round. So for Gabe to get knocked out like that, completely leaning forward, completely putting his momentum ahead of himself and getting caught by Brian Battle like that, it was really damning evidence for me, and I'm very happy that he took some time off after that fight because I don't know where he was at mentally before there to go in and have that kind of performance, and afterwards you need to have a nice break, give your brain a break, because that kind of knockout was pretty devastating. Now he's fighting this dude Mateus Camillo, and again, this guy, the only fight I saw was against Nabatov, and he looked good in that fight, but, it's tough to say where these guys even line up because you don't know if Nabatov was even UFC caliber. So this is an interesting fight. And for somebody to be coming in the UFC and to be such a big favorite here against somebody who's a pretty known commodity, at least for me, in Gabe Green, feels like a trap. It feels like the kind of fight where I should bet on the dog here in Gabe Green, but I just am not sold. And I think this is going to be a fun fight to watch, but I think it's a better fight to not bet on. So I'm going to stay away from this one. Next, you have Jared Gordon versus Thiago Moises, and this is actually a fight I'm very confident in. I believe Thiago Moises' days are behind him. He's one of those guys who went pro when he was like 16 or 17, and now at the age of like 31 is starting to see a lot of wear and tear on the treads. Reminds me a lot of somebody like Shogun Rua, somebody like Rory McDonald. These kind of guys who started super young, and although they're very talented fighters in their heyday, weren't able to put the pieces together before their body started to break down. I mean, Rua, that's not true for because he reached the pinnacle of the sport, but Roy McDonald unfortunately could not reach that before his body started to give out and before his brain, or his mentality, I should say, started to give out. Now, I think we've kind of reached that point with Moises due to injuries and things like that. He's fought some great fighters. He's fought his, Islam Makhachevs, his Dan Hookers, his Bobby Greens. But now, I don't know if he fought Dan Hooker actually, but he fought a lot of really good fighters. And now he's going life and death with guys like Trey Ogden and losing decisions to Ludovic Klein, getting knocked out by Benoit Saint Denis. And he still has a few things in his toolbox that are really dangerous. Primarily, his grappling is tremendous. His top game is one of the best in the sport. His calf kicks are very strong as well. His cardio starts to go, though, and his boxing defense has always been a weakness for him. Now he's facing Jared Gordon, Flash Gordon, a guy who, in my opinion, should be on at least a 4-fight win streak. I think he beat Paddy Pimblett. I don't think that's controversial to say. A lot of people felt Pimlet robbed him in that fight. After that, he fought Bobby Green. They clashed heads, and then he got knocked out. It was a no contest, so you can scrap that from the paper, in my opinion. Then he beat up Mark Madsen. It was awesome. I love that fight. And then he lost a very, very close decision to Nasser Hakparas, another fight that I felt should have went his way. So if he didn't have those two fights, decisions go the wrong way as they shouldn't have. Those would have been those are his only two decision losses in his career. If those didn't go the wrong way, he would be on a 5-fight win streak right now. So it sucks for Jared Gordon. He's had some bad luck lately. But if you watch these fights, if you look at his record and you say, oh, this guy's only had one fight that he won in the last 5 fights, the record does not tell the story. If you watch the fights, Jared Gordon has been improving more and more every fight. Paddy Pimblett, he looked amazing. He had great boxing in that fight. Against Mark Madsen, his cardio has always been his biggest tool, Jared Gordon. As I just mentioned, those 2 decisions that he lost against Hakparas and Pimblett, 2 decisions that I felt like he should have won, are the only decisions that he's ever lost in his whole career. And that's a testament to Jared Gordon's cardio and work ethic. Those are his biggest tools in there. He never loses the 3rd round, at least that I've seen. He usually never loses the 3rd round. He turns it up as the fight goes on. He has a great jab. He has great boxing fundamentals. And his jiu-jitsu and his wrestling are very competent enough to keep a guy like Thiago Moises away from that, in my opinion. And like I said, Moises' cardio has been really dog shit throughout his career, but it's been worse lately. And unless he can hurt Gordon with a big punch, or the leg kicks are a bigger tool than I'm rating them for Moises. I expect Gordon to be able to stuff the takedowns of Moises, or at least neutralize the position, and land much better strikes on the feet. And I think that's going to ramp up more and more intensely as the fight goes on. And I really expect Jared Gordon to get it done here this weekend. I think this is a case of 2 fighters who are in opposite trends, but the records don't dictate that. They look like they're in similar trends. But if you watch the fights, you see the physical decline of one fighter and the other fighter meeting that point of physical improvement and technique improvement, but falling short in the eyes of the judges, which really sucks. So, my opinion, Jared Gordon should get this done for sure, probably by decision, but I could see him getting a late finish here if Thiago Moises starts to gas out and Gordon starts to put his foot on the pedal more. So I think Gordon round 3 or decision is a good bet, but at money line, to have him at underdog odds at moneyline is a steal, in my opinion, and I'm going to be siding with my boy Flash Gordon this weekend. Next, we got Luana Santos versus Tainara Lisboa. I don't care about this fight, and you shouldn't either. You got Connor Matthews versus Yadier Del Valle. Connor Matthews, friend of the pod, the controller, unfortunately has not had a good run in the UFC so far. He's 0-2. He looked good in that last fight, but got caught against Dennis Bazooka, was not able to get his game going. Now they give him another killer in Yadier Del Valle, a guy who hits really hard from the regional scene. Connor Matthews, I think they want him to lose this fight, and they want to cut him. I like Connor Matthews. He's a good guy, man. I really like that guy. I had a great interview with him years ago, and I really hope he can get it done in this fight. But I'm not going to bet on this fight. It's going to break my heart enough already if he loses again. So I'm just going to stay away from this one. But I'm rooting for you, my boy. I hope you're watching, and I hope you win this Saturday. I think if you can use your wrestling, if Connor can use his wrestling and his striking in conjunction with each other, as he was able to on the regional scene, he should be able to give this guy, Yadier, problems that he hasn't seen yet. If he can drag this fight into the later waters and really pull this guy into the deep waters, I think he can get this done for sure. It's just a matter of withstanding that early onslaught and staying true to yourself and not falling into love with your hands. I think you can do it, Connor, bro. You got this. I believe in you. But I'm not going to bet on you. Next, you got Elise Reed versus Denise Gomez. This is a very fun fight and another kind of a trap here. Elise Reed, solid kickboxer striker. Looks like Mark Zuckerberg. It's pretty funny. Denise Gomez, Jessica Andrade prototype, but with much less conviction in her takedown game. So all the brawly parts of Jessica Andrade without the finesse, if you will. Gomez has pretty good wrestling, but like I said, she doesn't have the same conviction in her takedown game as Andrade. She doesn't go for the big slams, much more of a trip and stay on top kind of girl. And if she does that in this fight, which she should, she should be able to wrestle Elise Reed into the dirt. Loma Lookbonmi was able to get a submission over Elise Reed. I mean, we're talking about a Muay Thai phenom, nobody who has any grappling credentials in Loma, and she was able to submit Elise Reed. So if Denise Gomez can go to that wrestling early and often, I expect her to be able to get this done. If not by submission, by decision. But if she falls in love with her hands here and tries to, just swing and bang, she might end up looking like Andrade versus Joanna in this fight, where she stays where Elise Reed keeps her at the end of her kicks and circles the cage. But I just don't think Elise Reed has the cage craft of Prime Joanna, which is nobody does. Not the few fighters do have that kind of cage craft. But if she can channel Joanna in this fight, you're looking at a very juicy underdog here in Elise Reed. But I think this is a fun fight, but one that you should stay away from. Next, you got Park Hyun-sung versus Carlos Hernandez. They love putting Carlos Hernandez against, talented Asian prospects. Hyun-sung Park should be able to get this done, but I expect this fight to be pretty fun, man. Honestly, these guys both like to throw their hands. If Park goes to the wrestling, it's going to be an easier night for him. But if he decides to keep it on the feet, we're looking at a pretty fun action fight here. I expect him to go for the victory, so if he goes to the wrestling, it's going to be a lot quicker and a lot easier. So give me Park here, probably by decision, but I could see him getting it done either way. Then you got Tisha Pennington versus Luana Pinheiro. Tisha Pennington, formerly Tisha Torres, phenomenal fighter. I love Tisha, man. She's so nice. She's a sweetheart, and she's a great fighter. She always gives it her all in every fight, and she's a really fun fight to watch in general. Throws with conviction. A little undersized. She probably should have been an atom weight for a lot of her career. She draws Luana Pinheiro, who not that good. She's on a 3-fight losing streak. One by decision, one by knockout, one by submission. So she's got the trifecta. If Pennington can get her wrestling going here, she should be able to get it done. If not, I mean, she can beat her on the feet too. I think it's just a matter of Pinheiro can use her reach. Because Pennington has always had trouble with women who are a lot longer than her, because Pennington's very small. Like I said, she should have been an atom weight. But either way, I like Pennington in this fight. I think more often than not, experience is a motherfucker in this sport. And Pinheiro coming off of 3 losses in a row to much more experienced fighters, and Angela Hill, Jillian Robertson, and Amanda Hebus. She's not getting any favors in this fight against Tisha Pennington, another super experienced fighter who, although has not looked at her A game lately, is still talented enough, I think, to get this done. So give me Tisha Pennington in the curtain jerker to open the night out. All right, folks, thanks for putting up with my raspiness and feigning my waning voice. But let's get down the betting slip real quick. I'm going to stay away from the main event. It's a trap. Don't do it. Co-main event, though, I'm taking Bellato first or second round knockout. I am going to put Sadiq Youssef in my round robin at moneyline odds. I'm going to put Melquizel Costa at moneyline odds. Jared Gordon, moneyline. And I'm also going to throw in Tisha Pennington, moneyline as well. I think Pennington by decision is a good bet. I think Gordon by third rounder decision is a good bet. As I said, Bellato by finish. But play the money line, play it safe. Bellato by finish I would do because he's a huge favorite. But just to throw him at you one more time, we're going Bellato first or second round knockout. We're going Youssef money line. We're going to go Melquizel Costa money line, Jared Gordon money line, and Tisha Pennington money line. 5 picks coming at you this weekend, and I think we can get them all done, all in the bag, hopefully. Perhaps, maybe, the only one that I'm worried about is Sadiq Youssef because Myron Santos is young. He could improve a lot since that last fight, but we'll see what happens. I'll be happy to be wrong. I always am. I love you guys. Thank you for watching. Thank you for staying tuned. And you guys have a lovely night. I'm going to cue up this outro music. Thank you. Thank you for watching. Thanks for putting up with my voice. I got the Basel Hafez interview out. You guys haven't checked that out, I highly recommend it. I've got a few historical pieces coming down the pipeline for you. And I'm working on building a collection for a future Patreon to get some crowdfunded support for the podcast and help me to be able to keep doing what I love. Thank you so much, y'all, and have a lovely day. Thank you. Peace out. Much love. Hopefully next time I'll be able to laugh and joke and sing and cry with y'all. But for now, thanks for tuning in.